You guys are very lucky to have Patsy put your program together. You can't really say no. Uh, oh, we'll get a date. Don't you worry. So I'm really happy to be here. So I'm originally grew up in Texarkana, and I remember as a child being taken to the community college, and we'd watch different nature videos, and it was fascinating. My grandparents would take me. I've been I've been a member or officer of lots of chapters around over this way. Oh, over this. Okay, right here. Okay, all right, here we go. Uh, around the state and other places. Coastal Bend Audubon long ago, and then Baton Rouge Audubon, and then finally Houston Audubon, and I guess Travis Audubon there for a while in my Austin years. This is my first time at Bayer Audubon, and you guys are, you're a formidable chapter, so I appreciate the invite. And what I would like to have happen tonight is I've thrown a lot of slides together, and I'm going to gloss over some of those because I know I've got too much material. But if something gets your attention, you're like, I'd like to know more about that, please, this is a conversation. I just say, hey, Richard, can you please put it in somebody can monitor the chat, and if they've got a question, then let's jump in. If you want to hold it, that's cool too. But thanks again for letting me be here. Where do I need to point this, Fernando? Oh, just right up in the air. That's awesome. Okay, nice. All right, so I like to start this off with, why birds? I know why we like birds is because they're awesome. But the reason that conservationists tend to focus on birds is because they're everywhere. So they make a really good response variable to be that bellwether. So because of that, you've got this built-in community science. All these birders are helping. You've got an army of people that are gathering data, just like living, breathing sensors out gathering data for all the statistics wonks, which I'm not. But it's a great system. So starting in 2009, they started pulling all these Christmas bird count data. I know you all do your Christmas bird count, or some of you may do your BBS routes. And they compiled all of that, and they wanted to take a look at it. So everybody, ABC, Audubon, Fish and Wildlife Service, they all piled in and said, how are things? And it was grassland and arid lands. They're neglected, declining fast. Not good news. Coastal shorebirds, highly threatened, highest concern. These are things we already knew. Even that wasn't that long ago in 2009. Seabirds, doing awful. So is there any good news? Yes, there's some good news. Wetland birds, resilient with conservation attention, great tie-in on that duck stamp, because the duck stamp, which doesn't really have it that much in chapters anymore, people are pushing the duck stamp, but we review those knockup proposals, North American Wetland Conservation Act, and that money is coming from from those duck stamps and recreational sales of some stuff. But anyway, decades and decades and plans and people paying attention to it, it works. You can turn it around. So we have the model of what needs to happen. We also have some species specific victories with bald eagle, peregrine falcon, condors, things where if you could just get this terrible thing that's making the eggshells thinning and all of that, then we can pay attention to it and things can improve. So bald eagles are everywhere now. You guys see, it's like people even in my neighborhood like, you saw a bald eagle? Yeah, all the time. They're like, because we're close to the Brazos, but they have really recovered. All right, point it up in the air. Okay, so fast forward to 2020 or so, all those partners got together, the lab, Audubon, ABC, the agencies, and they looked at it again. And now they introduced some radar data, the whole big weather radar, and the question was asked, well, how many birds have we lost? And that was a good question. It was actually, I think Mike Parr that brought up that question in the group. And so the folks, especially at the lab of are like, we can answer that question. So, Ken Rosenberg and the team up there really led those analyses, but, they were shocked when they got all the data back, and then they were even able to break it down. And so it was almost 3 billion breeding birds gone. So that was a call. I know you've all seen that, and that's like old news now. Yeah, 1 in 4 breeding birds lost. And this was really the kicker for grassland birds, that, that 53, almost, half of the population is gone since 1970. That's in my lifetime. Half of the grassland birds in North America are gone, and 3 in 4 eastern meadowlarks, which is why I've got it on my car out there from the Houston Audubon conservation plate. It's like people, ranchers, everybody knows what an eastern meadowlark is, but they're going away unless we can turn things around. So I've been with Audubon. I was at Audubon, Houston Audubon, for almost 10 years after LSU, and then I was with ABC for a couple of years for their golf program, and now I've only been at Audubon, Texas for a little over a year, but I'm really impressed with the strategic plan that they have gone through. And I know there's nothing more exciting than strategic planning for all of you that have gone through it. But so you go in with a little trepidation, but the amount of science and the amount of work that went in behind it and getting everyone together, it was a really beautiful thing. Now I need you to take all of this in, and all I want you to take away from this is that it was very thoughtful. There is a plan. There was tremendous amount of collaborator input, and there is a way to collect the metrics. We all decided with as many people that we could get together on how we were going to bend the bird curve, and the organization has been structured from the top down, and adding more community parts, like with all the chapter network as well, so that we can do that. It's focused, and we're fired up about it. And that charting that course is broken down into 4 main categories. That's habitat conservation. It's the habitat stupid. Climate action. That's the big the big elephant in the room. Policy. Sometimes that is the best way to get things done. And then community building. And that is, I think, maybe the part of the plan that is least appreciated by the most people, but I know that you all understand that, and I certainly understand that coming from a chapter, because all of conservation, it's a people problem, and we're the people, and we have to make that happen. If we're going to change societal norms, then that community building that's where it's going to happen. So that's very, very important. What's also very important, since I did my final graduate work down in grasslands in South America, I'm really excited that they have gone further afield, and they're now hiring people and partnering more heavily and investing throughout the Americas. Because as you know, a lot of these migratory birds, they've got very, very big ecologies that require everything. So underneath of that is local actions for broad impact. So before they embarked on this big strategic plan, they did some science. And I'm Nicole Michael up there for that top paper. We used to band birds when we were kids out of college, and she's now like the head science person. That's awesome. She came up with the bird friendly index for a lot of the ranching program that we'll talk about. And then they had some great scientists put together this strategy for how to choose with priority species and priority geographies and climates, where the priority geographies are. So know, I'm gonna have to memorize all this, but just know that Audubon, Texas, and everywhere else is focused on priority geographies and priority species, and we are laser focused, and we're gonna need everybody's help. And I know you need help too. I used to complain about that as a chapter person. Like, you guys are always coming here asking us for help, but we need help. So it's two-way street. I very much in that camp. So Texas, let's bring it in. Let's bring it home. If you look, these are the priority geographies, and if you look at that, you will notice that a lot of those colors are really focused on the green, because you've got the blue, and then the yellow is more important, and then the green is like the best, and so it's going to be all of that, but the green is the areas that we really want to focus on. And you'll notice that basically it's all of Texas, and that's no surprise, because it's important for breeding, it's important for stopover habitat, it's important for wintering, and so 1 in 3 birds that breeds in North America passes through Texas. So it is that important. So we're going to see additional investments, and we are going to see additional work happening in Texas. All right, so here is the Texas priority geographies. Of the 188 species or for North America that were identified as priority species because of population or representing a particular habitat, 110 of those are in Texas. Arid lands, 33 of those. Coast, wetlands, and marine, 50. Forest, 42. So we have got our work cut out for us. So how are we going to do that? Right? Oh, come on, there you go. All right, so biologists, bird biologists, conservationists, we really don't care about states at all. We think about the world in these BCRs, which is just a TLA, a 3-letter abbreviation. And so these bird conservation regions are how we think about it, because they're areas that are similar. So like 37 down there, you can see is this Gulf Coast. That habitat, it's pretty much the same. And so you see Texas, we all know this, it's super diverse. So then how we operate within this very complicated space is, you guys know what you have to do to manage things around here. You have within all of that 20, you have similar management challenges. And so our actions working with partners have, come on. Oh, that's right, that's my laser. Have to be fine-tuned to those regions because the challenges are different. So what I'd like to do is just kind of go over some of these regions in Texas and then talk about what we're doing for those. Since the title is Conservation in Action, that's what we wanted to see. I can't cover everything, but if it's something that's like, yeah, you have questions, and let me know. But for the coast, doing pretty well. 47 species. It's like, yeah, drop, but it's, for that, it's some of the best success is on the coast. 50 species. The Texas coast is crazy, globally important. We've got Rookery Islands. We're just now starting beach nesting. I'll talk about all of that in a sec. But these are, if you want to go in the springtime, where do you go? You go to the coast. There's just loaded with birds. Here's a nice graphic that the coastal program put together. Alexis Balder is our coastal program manager. And what I'll point out is, that Audubon Texas manages more than like 170 islands, or at least we hold leases that we can kick people off if we need to. So there's not fishing camps and things, so the birds can have them. Like here, that's North Deer Island up in Galveston Bay. You've got Sundown Island, which is now called Chester Island here. And then you've got Green Island down here. These, which is the stronghold for reddish egrets. This, Chester Island here in Matagorda Bay, that's where Chester, when he was the warden, back in the 80s, there weren't any brown pelicans in Texas. And so he went and like basically kidnapped some baby pelicans and hauled them out there to, out to Chester Island. He was going to do it. And then they were a little older, but they were fine. And then they came back, and then they started nesting there. And now it's covered up in pelicans, and we see them. And so having a place where birds can go to nest without being disturbed is very important. And these challenges are for these islands, the disturbance. There's more and more people that don't understand that they need their space, and the black skimmers are just plummeting, continue to plummet. They're bare ground nesters. So we're, this is constant. But this year, Audubon Texas joined Coastal Bend Bays and Estuaries Program, ABC, Houston Audubon, and Gulf Coast Bird Observatory. It's pretty much all the nonprofits along the coast that are doing bird work to start taking care of beach nesting birds. So things like black skimmer, least tern, Wilson's plovers, snowies. They nest, except for the least terns and the plovers, but they're on the beach. The Texas beaches are a hard place to get their work done, right? People are driving, there's everything. It's just a really difficult place to be successful as a nester. So what this project does, this is funded through some of the Restore the Oil Spill money. and it is to recover some of those species that were affected. So we'll go out, we'll find places where they're breeding, we'll put up protective symbolic fencing. It's not going to really keep anybody out, but it's a strong signal to say, hey, we got some birds here. Put some signs up. Do outreach, do intercepts, and say, hey, yeah, this sign, this is what this means. So we get young, energetic biologists to go out, and our wardens, we've got 3 wardens. So they'll take them out and drop them off in some of these places if they're boating destinations, and just do the work of protecting these places after we identify them. So this is year 1. This is the first year that we're doing beach nesting bird work. This is a well-established program on the East Coast, the West Coast, and in Florida. So we are joining the group, and we are covering an area that was otherwise not covered, and that's all of Matagorda Bay and the J Hook and those areas around there. So we're really excited, and we're interviewing right now for a biologist. So we're going to have another bird person on the coast to help Alexis and the team, very soon, hopefully within the month. All right. Another important thing that's gone on for 40 plus years, Texas Colonial Waterbird Survey. This is something we do every year along all those islands. We collaborate, and this is Evia Island. And that's an island that Houston Audubon, but I had the photo, so I put it in there. All right, another cool thing that I'm sorry, that was a slip, that Audubon Texas that we just finished up. There was a question. So what happens if whooping cranes are successful? What happens if, what if we have climate change, and what if we grow beyond Aransas, and which is kind of what's happening. The whooping cranes are starting to wander off of the refuge. Well, we have to plan for that. We need to, and of course Aransas is working on it, and other groups are, but we had an opportunity to get a bunch of the collaborators together, groups like the International Crane Foundation, state and federal agencies, anybody and everybody that we asked were happy to help build this decision support tool. So basically, hot, red, green is protected, and you can go in and use this tool for partners. And those red pieces, that's great habitat for whooping cranes, so that we can start targeting those. So if we get 3 or 4 of those parcels bought, then that's going to be great, and that tool will have done its job. So we're sharing that out. It's not public facing, because there's a lot of parcel ID, so a lot of parcel information. So, but it will, we can, all those land folks and land trusts out there, they can go in and get very specific information on how to approach those landowners. Still, there we go. All right. Right. All right. I'll take a minute. All right, I already said that. We're hiring a coastal avian biologist. I looked really close to this photo because it looks like it's giving it a hug, right? But if you look close, there's a little fish in his mouth, and so I think he's just trying to get up there and get that fish that mom or dad hasn't let go yet. But yeah, that's a great photo. Not mine. That's one of the award winners. I don't know where it is. Yes, sir. Yeah. Like where are they? It's small. It's much smaller than you think. So every spring, like May, we've been doing it for 40 years. We all go out. We know where they are, or if we don't, we're going to find out. 40, and they've all got their boats, and there's a 2 to 3 week period where you can go because weather is never cooperating. So the islands you go to, the places that they tend to vote. Yes, there's a few. Yeah, there's definitely volunteers that help out. A lot of Texas master naturalists and lots of different groups. But I didn't mean to do that. But anyway, we have to find them, but we tend to know where they're going to be because they have high site fidelity, so they will go back home to nest if it worked. Especially black skimmers will bail if they get overwashed. So sea level rise, or more intense storms, washovers, subsidence. There's no sediment being added, like with rivers all being dammed. So we're now in a very managed environment where you need the dredge material deposition, or you need projects to keep the habitat available. So it's not like where they're going to go, because there's just not that many places. For example, Dow Chemical has a parking lot that is close to the coast, but they were doing a construction project 25 years ago, and so there were no cars. But there was this big, shell hash parking lot, and the black skimmers went in and started nesting. And there were a couple of birders that worked there, and they said, "Whoa, hold up, everybody! This is awesome, and we're going to need to let them finish before we get the cars back in there, even though you got, for the construction was over." And they've been coming every year. And I would say that Dow Chemical parking lot, which is now fenced, watered, it's like a skimmer farm. It's amazing. I don't think they do tours anymore, but it's like, you can have 200 pair there, and that's by far the biggest colony in the Western Gulf. Yes. Okay. Yeah. No. I think it's probably fine. If it's there and it hasn't left, then things are probably pretty good. So if you think about these were storm scattered birds, and I think that's just part of nature, and it's part of dispersal, and it's part of finding new places, and part of the built-in resiliency of populations. And so look at Limpkins. If you've got your Audubon magazine, then you've had ecological release. Now that's mostly grateful. That's mostly attributed to the invasive snails, but we'll see. They may fall back, or who knows? We might have, we may be like Florida and have more flamingos moving into the future. That'd be fine with me. So I hope that answered the question. I wouldn't worry about it. We couldn't do anything if we tried. All right, forest, 42 species. I'm going to skip this one because we don't do a whole lot yet. Our partners over in Audubon Delta, they interact more with the Lower Miss joint venture and the East Texas, the pines and Louisiana pines. So a part that does need some attention and that gets some attention from the Oaks and Prairies joint venture, of course, is the hill country. And that is obviously ongoing. We have our species of a very important concern with things like black-capped vireos and golden-cheeked warblers. So those obviously get attention, but I'm going to skip this in the interest of time. Because I want to focus on grasslands and arid lands. So this is where we're really hurting across North America. And there's 25 priority species. And what Audubon has been doing in the last 10 years, I want to talk more about the Audubon Conservation Ranching Program, and all the different joint ventures. Who knows what a joint venture is? Anybody? Who doesn't know what a joint venture is? Okay. Joint ventures are really cool. So we talked about the waterfowl money. And so when there was this money, they were like, how are we going to spend this money? So let's get the Fish and Wildlife Service people together, and let's get the state agencies, all across the states. And we got some Audubon people, or the Ducks Unlimited, especially the Ducks Unlimited folks, everybody that's got a stake in waterfowl doing better. We're gonna organize them and as planning groups in these joint ventures. Their joint venture was to plan for waterfowl. It was a great success. And then they were like, hey, what about all these other birds? And so now the joint ventures have expanded to include all these other different groups. So there's shorebird groups, there's forest groups in these joint ventures. So that's the convening space for bird conservation. And you all can always go to the joint venture meetings, and you have Oaks and Prairie and the Gulf Coast. You're a little out of the way for joint for that, but that's where the work happens. So these grasslands, you can see these priority areas. This is an older map. So I will say, after some feedback in this process, all of this has turned blue, meaning it needs to be future priority geographies. I was just in Mexico 3 weeks ago, in Monterrey, and that, this is extremely important. That's all Chihuahuan Desert grasslands there, and so that's their Pro Natura, the partner on the other side. They're doing fantastic work. So I think ACR will be picking up there soon. All right, let's talk about who's heard of conservation ranching, Audubon conservation ranching. No one at all? This is great. I know you have. All right, so Anita Gilson is she started about 5 months before me. She's a rancher. She's from in Sweetwater, so that is so she's up in this area, I think. But she's a rancher, but she's our range ecologist, and she is the tip of the spear in trying to get people to adopt practices. I don't even know what word I was trying to spell there. Excels, I guess. Oh yeah, excels. Oh my God. Up late. So there's a mod. So okay, so here's the way it works, and I've got some much better graphics. But basically, you have rotational grazing, and you write a management plan for ranches, and then they adopt it, and then this plan, and then we come back and we monitor. We monitor birds, we monitor vegetation, and we monitor soil. And if they do those things, then they can, and if they do certain other things which we'll talk about, then they become an ACR certified ranch. And so those dots, that's an older graphic, and we'll look at that more, but they're doing good work, and it's really gaining momentum. So who knows Sarah Galvan? Anybody in here? Grass, amazing naturalist. Anyway, she's here.
Master naturalist.
Native Plant Association of Texas, and we've hired Sarah, and she's here in San Antonio. So she is our second range ecologist. So she will be making the rounds and reaching out to all the ranchers in all of South Texas. So what I would like to do, I'm going to connect y'all with Sarah. So if you know ranchers, if you've got family land, or if you're a lessee running property and this is something that you want to learn more about, then Sarah can help you with that. And we've built out toolkits so that you can understand what your options are. I know not everybody has the ability to do rotational grazing, but there's other things that you can do as well. You can always improve habitat. Yes.
Question was, what is rotational grazing?
I'm going to get there.
Okay.
I got a great graphic that I didn't make. Yeah. Okay. And we also have another range of colleges coming on to be probably in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but it also cover that some of those smaller parcels intermixed in East Texas as well, up by my old neck of the woods. All right. And we've got a fantastic partner in Dixon Water Foundation, which is, we were just up there. Fortunately, they're already doing this. They're doing the science. They have staff that is their mission. And so we've got this natural partner. So it's really, really exciting. So that's the new map. And so we've gone from 87 in just, this last year to, 427,000 acres that are now, that have habitat management plans. So the idea is like, okay, we'll get them in, and then we need to help them and steward them and make sure that they are supported, they can talk to each other, and go on and do the monitoring and get some momentum for different kinds of range practices that is going to put more carbon in the soil, it's going to put more birds on the land, and it's going to take care of the water and all that good stuff. All right, so online, what is rotational grazing? Also called regenerative grazing. What it means is you are emulating what bison would have done. And so bison would have been this mega herd. They come in, they beat it all down, and they just leave this big swath, and then they just keep on going. And so the idea, if you've got 100 acres, well, you'd have like 2 cows, but the 1,000 acres, who's got 1,000 acres? Is that the cows are just going to wander around. They're going to eat their ice cream cones. They have their little plants that they like, but they're not eating their veggies. And so by putting them in a smaller area, then you have more intensity, and then they eat everything, and then they go to their next paddock or their next area. And what that means is that the area gets to rest. And so there's, here's a, I don't know, I'll have a better graphic for that. But the point of this is that there are many benefits to this because it imitates the way that these grasslands used to work. So here's some of the other activities that ACR is working with landowners. We write these plans, we connect them to these resources, talk to them about practices, and then we go out and monitor it. Of course, these landowners are like, oh my gosh, what'd you see? Let's send me the bird list. And it's like, oh wow, we had these owls, or saw this and that, and they're just often fascinating. Can I go with you? Yes, you can go with us. But part of this is it is a market-based approach. So if you have beef from in this program, then you get you have bird-friendly beef, or sometimes it's grass-fed or grass-finished. So it has this little certification. There's not enough beef for it to be at HEB yet. That's the goal. So you'd have to go online and see where these places. I think there's a place in San Antonio where you can get Audubon's ACR certified beef. But those, as more come on, then the idea is that you would be able to get grass fed. So Patsy was telling me, because we were having this discussion this past weekend, it's like, well, I don't want to pay 2-3 times as much for grass finished beef, and it's like, well, you're right. It doesn't need to be. We have to find a way for that to make sense. And fortunately, you were saying that it was moving in that direction. So this is a work in progress. And so the 3 pillars of ACR, it's habitat management. You've got all this stuff is on our website, so please go check it out. Animal health and welfare, and they've got environmental sustainability. I'm not going to read all that, but things like ivermectin. If you're giving your cows ivermectin, which is this antibiotic, they poop it out and it makes the ground sterile. And so then you don't have dung beetles, and then all this thing just sort of cascades. And so there's certain things that are done so that the land can have dung beetles and wildflowers and all that sort of thing. But having just done the monitoring out there this summer as a birder, I'm like, man, this is great. This is a really wonderful place to bird, and you just the cows are doing their thing, but they get moved around. So we write these plans. How are we doing on time? Probably not great. We'll keep going. Doing all right? Great. So anyway, every ranch is different. You got to figure out where the water is, what their goals are, and what your goals are. So we take these. We for example, Anita used to work for NRCS, and she knows how to write a plan for the soils and stocking rates and all that stuff, so they can follow that. And so here's another graphic for that rotational grazing and what that means to birds. So here's your this time since grazing here and the species. And so you've got this intense area here, and then it's recovering, and then it's moving along. So you've got enough time, so it's not just constantly overgrazing and there's no habitat to use. And so if you give the area rest, then you're going to have more of these natives are going to put their bigger roots down, more native plants. You're going to sequester more carbon. You're going to hold more water and runoff events, and it is just a better place to be. And using those BCRs, those bird conservation regions, they're depending on where you are, you're going to have different species. So if you're a birder, that looks like great hornlark or Sprague's pipit habitat, right? or you could then you get a little upland sandpipers, sticking his little BB head up through this stuff, and Henslows or LeConte, if you're over down on the coast or in East Texas, is going to be in that. All of this is habitat, and if you can have heterogeneity, different pieces in this bigger grassland, that's what nature wants. They want to have different bits of habitat, not a big monoculture. That's how it always was. Yeah. I don't know that cow, but looks relatively happy. Health and welfare, feedlots are unconfined, there's just some good stuff for good practices for cattle. And then, we write in some of that riparian protection, nutrient management, broadcast spraying, lots of good stuff to take care of the land. And then we go out and we monitor so that we can feed back in to, and also the carbon gets done every once in a while, carbon monitoring. And then we can feed that back into the adaptive management loop and make those adjustments as needed. So for the birds, vegetation, soil. What something's really cool now is that the carbon markets are maturing. And so some partnerships are starting to happen. It's like, well, we've only got so many these markets are young. So let's make this easy. If you guys have a management plan and your ACR, that sounds like a good partnership. We're going to start with you. So if we can stack some benefits for people that are doing regenerative grazing, and there's other people that are doing regenerative grazing, not just Audubon, but then you want to help those people that are making good decisions for the land, then you want to maybe put them at the front of the line. I think that's a good thing. And then this is the way that we're currently measuring it, but we're going to start comparing some different ways to see how good the land is responding to those management practices. So this bird friendliness index is, in a lot of ways, that's a diversity index. But the point of that is, is that it went up after 4 years. They had a significant increase after changing those practices on this ranch. So again, you can go to the store and do this. You can you can take a tour. We'll get Sarah, get you guys, and go out to some of these. There's some local ranches around here that are drop dead gorgeous, and they're pretty awesome. Rome Ranch, wow. That place was the basket flower, and all the other the wildflowers were just crazy. So we can get Sarah to set up maybe a botanical expedition and to some of these ranches and talk all about it. All right. Finally, back to our communities, our chapters, and you all are so lucky. I've never lived in a town that had an Audubon Center. So you guys are really lucky that you have Mitchell Lake Audubon Center with like lots of acreage and usually has water. I don't think it has water right now, but
some.
Yeah. If Sarah's online, then she can chime in the chat. But we're second only to California in these priority geographies in these urban areas, and so that's why I've got a few slides for bird cities and lights out. It's just, man, cities. It's like you got all this habitat, you do all this work, you grow all these birds, you do all these things, and then they're migrating, and then they get attracted into these cities, and then you got to reduce the threats in the cities so that you're not undoing all the work that you're doing out on the landscape. So it's who has not been to Mitchell Lake Audubon Center? I'll start. I haven't. It's sad. I wanted to go to David. I didn't get there. It's going to happen. But that's pretty amazing that you have a good place and with amazing staff to help get all that programming out. And the idea, just one more thing I wanted to say about this, with the way that flight plan and the strategic planning is happening, the centers are going to be more aligned with, and they're still going to have some of that traditional programming, but the idea is to roll out more aligned programming for flight plan. Like conservation action centers is what they're going to start working toward. Still going to have all the camps and kids and walks and all that fun stuff. So Bird City, Texas. Is San Antonio a bird city?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yes, it is. Thank you, Patsy. So I love this program. We helped Houston Audubon helped the city of Houston and about 3 or 4 others reach Bird City status. So this is a really nice way. Or I think okay, that's a better slide to help me talk through that. What is it? It's a community that's doing all this good stuff: increase habitat, reduce threats, engage people, promote sustainability. But what it really is, it's a guide. And instead of getting this scattershot, hey, we're having this problem. We got this TNR colony. I'm like, okay, yeah. Actually, we're having all these collisions, and oh man, they keep putting in all this Nandina. It's poisoning the birds, and you got all these different threats. This is it. It's all in there. And so if you can say, we want to be a bird city, then you've got a framework to go and say, hey, we need to work on these 3 things. Can we get a proclamation to say that we want to, dedicate ourselves to that? So you got some of the leadership to agree to that. And then he's like, well, we really could use some help with this. And if you can get your spark plug, that person that can really push it in a community, then they can pull those pieces together. And so every city should be, who is that? This guy here? Britt, good job, Britt. Yeah, he's got a spark plug. Every city should be a bird city. But as a chapter, something that y'all can do is help some of your other surrounding communities. You got 10 counties, a lot of cities, different sizes. That would be a cool little committee to just help. You've already gone through it. You can mentor another city and help them get to that status.
Purville's in the process.
Right. So we helped several at Houston Audubon, several different communities. Like, yeah, here's our application. Here's how we did it. And it's not cheating. It's like can't use the same information, but you can say, yeah, this is how we did it. So these groups are coming together. They're talking. They're exchanging notes. And Chloe Crumley with Audubon Texas, she is doing a great job of helping get these people's application things done. So all that good stuff. All right. Lights Out Texas. You're talking about it. Got stuff up here that's wonderful. We know why we're doing it. You guys know why you're doing it. You've already given the plug, so I don't have to go too much into that. But it is something that is getting more and more attention. The Fish and Wildlife Service, National Park Service, the rhetoric of the narrative of just lights out. Okay, sorry, I think I missed it. Who do we contact if we want to learn more about supporting a ranch? You can send that to me, Richard.Gibbons, Gibbons, at Audubon, AUDUBON.org. So send that to me, and I will send it to Sarah Galvan, and I think or send it to both of us, sarah.galvan at audubon.org, and we will follow up with them. Thank you very much for that question. So lights attract, glass kills, and of course lights attract, cats kill. Lights attract, and they get off course. But this is an easy way, and the narrative now is moving more toward let's turn the lights down, let's have smart glass, and let's also let's start do what we can to get the codes changed and start treating and getting people aware that so who saw the breezeway out here, the little skywalk? It had the whole little whatever it is, well, anyway, it wasn't reflective, and it was amazing. Whatever they put on it was great. You're welcome, Eres. All right. So Texas has number 2 and number 3 of the top 20 U.S. cities for exposing birds to light pollution. Buildings upgraded to smart glass. So the question in the chat was, do we have any way to get existing buildings retrofitted for bird safe glass? I will say that's very cost prohibitive. And so right now, so Chloe and Gabriel Durham from Houston Audubon and I will be at the Texas whatever the architecture group is. And they're going to meet in Houston. We're having a symposium about it. If you can get it into the design in the beginning, that's how you want to do it. And some of these retrofits, you can put this, you can add this to your trouble spots. That's the best thing to do is like, oh my gosh, I go to work every day and it's always the same spot, that reflects this tree over here, and I always see the dead birds here. Treat the hot spot, and go talk to the building manager. Hey, can I do this? Can we try it and see if this will help? It's a big problem. We talk about lights out. It's not really the skyscrapers as much. It's part of it, but it's all these 1-story, 2-story. That's the majority is low slung buildings. They're coming in, and in the daytime, they see this reflection. Birds don't understand glass. That's not something in nature, and so they see this reflection, and the numbers. There was a study that just came out, and it was like 700 million, and now that number is, after they did a very big longitudinal study with rehabilitators, basically very few of them survive. Once they get they go to the rehab, or they fly out. Oh, it's okay. On your neighborhood. Oh, it's okay. He flew off. No, they're not okay. Almost always they die. But they've got injury, so they're slower. Or a predator will get them, or they've got neurological damage. Yes, they had a fight or flight response, but chances are they didn't fly off. So here's how you can help. So to the question in the audience, these principles for lighting. This is great. Let's all get our timing. Put the light where you need it. That's the take home. If you don't need giant floodlights, which but I need to be safe. Well, if you're blinded and you're in the middle of this spotlight and you can't see beyond, that's a bit of a trope that needs to be undone. But you need to have the light where we're making great progress there, but it's we need to put light where we need it. Other things you can do, keep up the media blitz, share it, get the yard signs out, and go check out all this. Chloe is she's our coordinator. She's doing amazing work. All right, finally, natural climate solutions. We know we're all transitioning away from oil and gas, and as we are building all this, we're going to have to start our carbon budget. So when we are making big grand scale changes, we have to come up with natural climate solutions. And so we have to be thinking about our carbon budgets and how do we sequester more carbon, and it has to be across everything that we do. Embodied carbon is now part of the architectural design process. So all of this is something. There's a whole team. I am not on that team, obviously, so I'm not talking very well about it. But there are groups that are working on that. This was a bit of a shocker for me, as Texas is where all the wind is and where tons of sun is, and so we have a very short time to build a lot of transmission. That's the goal. So you've got in white for Texas, that's the existing transmission, and then you've got needed. So all those little yellow dots in Texas means there is a lot of habitat that is about to get altered for transmission. And that means that we need to be very intentional about saying, let's do it this way. Let's have all native prairie underneath. Don't plant a bunch of garbage under there. Let's have practices. Let's have mowing regimes so that you can let these birds breathe. Anyway, we can do this better. And so there's a lot of engagement on trying to make this transition to renewables as least amount of mitigate those harms. Yeah, here's this. There's the solar resources and the wind resources, and the green is wind and solar resources. I love that. So that's why everybody wants to go to Texas for wind and solar. It's really good for energy. And here is another cool graphic put together, and it just shows where those basically the higher colors are where there's tons of birds, and where they have the potential for collisions with those transmission and other resources. So we're trying to say here, if you're going to put this transmission line, put it over there, not right through the big thicket, or right through the grasslands up here or wherever. Anyway, I don't know if you talked about the Texas Roundup in your announcements, but that is coming up in Austin on November 1st and 2nd. So that's a time when chapters can come together and exchange ideas, and it's should be a lot of fun. We're talking about need more field trips, need more group dinners, and need a social committee on that. But anyway, Chloe and others are putting that together. Hope to see some of y'all there.
Right.
All right. Yeah, more baby birds. I have no idea how I did on time, but about right. Okay, good. I've rushed a little bit. I'm sorry about that, but I would love to talk. Whoever's got questions, any of this.
Okay, so you took care of the chats as they happen. So if anybody in the room has a question, we want to speak it into the microphone so that the people online can hear as well. So anybody got a question for, okay, Britt?
So the 427,000 acres,
yeah,
that's an amazing number. All that 427,000 acres are doing the ranchland program that you had outlined.
Yeah.
They're doing the regenerative grazing and.
Yes. Most of those, this needs clarifying. They are very likely already doing, then there's the question of who's already doing these practices, and then there's additive. And so, how much of this are you making better? And so you want to get all the good practitioners in, and then you want to start telling that story. And then you want to get more people and empower them and share that this is a viable outcome. So, I mean, that's what Dixon does. Dixon Water Foundation, they've got a big ranch in south of Marfa and then up north of Dallas Fort Worth, and they have to stay in the black. That, oh, you guys are nonprofit, you can do whatever you want. You're not a real rancherman. No, they have to have a budget, and they have to, all their inputs, and they have to show that it works. And so we were hearing their ranch manager, and Patsy and I were over there, fanboy and fangirling. Man, Frank, was it Frank? Jake McNamara. Yeah, we were like, man, we're on team Jake, because he was a convert from traditional grazing and ranching to this new. And man, he has
an app.
He has, oh yeah, Pasture Map. Yeah, you got to have Pasture Map. That's a good one.
He does his land management on an app, and he is all about it.
Yeah. So with one person, we've done that. We've added that with a little over a year, and so now we're getting 2 more people. So yeah. Yes.
So watch for the beef. You got to eat it. Somebody's got to eat this stuff. And it's getting out there, and it's getting cheaper as more and more ranches are in there. So, a little bit of a, what do you call it? Charge to save the birds we all love. It's worth it. It's like buying a duck stamp or whatever. It's part of conservation. So.
It's better.
Any other questions?
Do direct. Go ahead.
Yeah, what?
Yes, along the same lines, you're talking about the feedlots, right?
Yes.
How feasible is it to put that amount of cattle from the feedlots onto grazing and to make it profitable?
So the ACR certified cattle they don't go to feedlots.
But that volume that we consume as consumers in the US, how can you mitigate that?
How do you get away? How do you have the same amount of beef
exactly
without feedlots?
That's my question.
I don't know that you can, and maybe that's okay. I don't know. It's a good question, and one I can ask Anita, I bet, or Wade. from Dixon Water Foundation. I mean, a lot of the feedlots are just, fatten them up before they go to the barn. Yeah, and so that's what grass finishing is extremely hard. Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy, but there's a growing community that's trying to restructure the market and the business model, and so there's a lot of people working on it.
Well, I think the real secret is reducing the demand for beef in general.
Oh yeah,
Beef-
absolutely.
So maybe maybe it's a two-sided
Yeah,
story.
my doctor just told me that.
If you're gonna eat beef, be sure to eat grass.
Yeah.
I have another question. Are you reaching out to like the USDA and the Meat Federation, that certifies the types of beef and to maybe work with them?
Yes, and then we'll go to the online questions. So, boy, USDA is big, and so right with regard to the food, I would have to ask. Thomas Schroeder is our partnership person, and Chris Wilson. They deal with some of that, but the markets piece, I think, is what you're talking about. Or because there's USDA, there's Natural Resource Conservation Service, which is within that as well, and they're huge. They're all about this. Like we're getting quite a bit of grant money to help people make that transition. It's part of the bipartisan infrastructure law that was put out to do more of this work across the U.S. So USDA is already interested in this. But if you're asking about the processing part of that, I have no idea. But I would like to know. But I'll have to ask. That's a good question. Okay, I missed the question. You'll have to repeat the question online.
The question
Freshwater?
online was, is Audubon working on like water flow issues, like on Avenue A, where they've been trying to channelize that part of the river for a long time, and does Audubon work on those issues like that?
There is not a dedicated water person in Texas, but there has been, and now that position's open because Dallas Kelly left for a better job, but our policy person. And so those are often policy questions. Meaning they need a policy answer. Freshwater inflows are huge. We should all pay attention to those and go to those meetings and provide comments when we can, because they're over allocated. There's not enough water, and they're continuing to take more. So we definitely work with Texas Water Trade. We're dealing with this in the Valley, for example, with the Rio Grande is not it doesn't have any water. Really, and it's over allocated. We're trying, Audubon owns a piece of property, the Sable Palm Grove, should go, but the resock is empty because they can't get water. They got water right now because they had 25 inches from the storms, which is great. But generally, we're having problems. We're working on it, and 2 years we'll have it filled up.
Well, Richard, thank you for coming tonight. Richard's going to have to drive all the way back to Missouri City.
I want to.
He wants to go home.
I do.
His kids and his wife. And I can't tell you how much we appreciate you coming all this way to talk to us. Drove there from there today. He's going back there tonight. And this is the kind of clout that you can get when you got a big organization like Audubon and we'll all work together.
That's right.